Hi guys, my name is Bobby and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing my review wrap-up of The Woods Are Dark by Richard Laymon as part of my Richard Laymon read-through series. So The Woods Are Dark was published in 1981. It was his second adult work that was singular, third in total. Like there was one called Your Secret Admirer, but it was YA. And so, you know, it was right after The Cellar, which we all know how I feel about The Cellar. So this was published in 1981. When it was sent to the publisher, they butchered his original story. They tore out a whole bunch of stuff. They took out one of the main characters, which I don't know how this story would survive without this one character, because he's what makes it so twisted. But they took him completely out. They took out a whole bunch of other stuff. And Richard Laymon claims that that's why he failed as a writer in the US, is because they cut all that out. When it was released in the UK, it was the full edition, and he took off and was super famous in the UK and Europe and all of that. So he credits this book as the reason why he was never that popular in the United States. Now he kind of has a little bit of a cult following, because now that they've republished a lot of his books and stuff like that, there's many horror lovers who have found him since, but at the time he was actually alive and publishing, he wasn't that popular. So after Richard Laymon passed away, his daughter was going through some of his old manuscripts and stuff like that, and she knew how badly her dad felt about The Woods Are Dark and how it wasn't what he wanted it to be. It wasn't his original story, and so she dug through all of his papers and found the original manuscript and a couple others, and it took her a while to put it all together in the order that it needed to be, so then it could then again be republished in its full, unedited, uncut edition. And that's the version I read, because I don't know if you can even get a hold of an uncut version anymore. I read it through Kindle Unlimited, so that's the version that they had. But it was quite a ride. So The Woods Are Dark. I liked this one way better than I liked The Cellar. I rated it 3.5 stars. It was very reminiscent of a B horror movie. So let me backtrack. So this story is about, it's two separate groups of people. So you have these two college girls named Neela, I think is her name, Neela and Sherry, and they're going out to go backpack in the woods or something like that, and they're going through California, and they get hungry or tired or whatever, so they stop in this small little town, and they go to the diner, and when they go to leave, they won't let them leave. And then on the flip side, you have the Dills family, Lander and his wife, Ruth, I think is her name, their daughter Cordelia, and her boyfriend Ben, and they are also traveling through. I think they're trying to get to Yellowstone, or I don't remember where their destination was, doesn't really matter. They stop at the hotel there, same thing happens to them. So both these groups are taken out in the middle of the woods where there's 5 or 6 dead trees, and they are handcuffed, strapped to the trees by the townsfolk of this town, and they said that they've been doing this for years, and if they don't do it, then, you know, they'll come after them, and they're like, well, who are they? And who they're talking about is the Krolls, which they're pretty much, the hills have eyes times 1,000, pretty much. Very inbred, been out there for centuries. They are cannibalistic and rapey and, you know, typical horror movie, horror book kind of synopsis. So they strap them all to the trees. One of the guys that brought them out there has kind of a thing for Neela, so he comes out there and he comes back to release her so she doesn't get killed, because he's got a thing for her. So he releases everybody, and everybody just kind of scatters. So the whole book is everybody scattered in the woods trying to find their way out and trying to survive. So after everybody scatters, our story kind of takes off from there. So you have, what is his name, Robbie, I think? The guy that comes and saves the 2 girls, and he really wants Neela. They go off in their direction, and the family kind of goes off on their own. They were kind of get together to begin with, but then they kind of split off, and everybody gets kind of separated. And so Lander, who is the dad, because like of the family, his story is what makes this story. Because the guy saving the girls, like the only reason why he wanted to save Neela and Sherry is because he wants to fuck Neela, and that's evident from the get-go. So it's like, okay, so the whole purpose of the story is so that he can save her. Hopefully they make a connection or whatever, and they make it out alive. Like, it's like their part I wasn't really interested in. Lander, on the other hand, and his family, that was some intense shit. So it reads very much like a B horror movie. Lots of death and gore and, like, you know, sexual assault and rape and, like, all that. Like, those kind of like Last House on the Left. Very, very B horror movie. And so Lander, like, as they get split up, and his daughter and her boyfriend kind of get split up from him and his wife for a minute. His wife gets taken off by the Krulls, and so he's going to go save her. So he chases after her. So before he goes and chases after her, he gets this kind of mindset, well, if I strip off all my clothes and just run naked like they are, because all the Krulls are either naked or use, like, clothes made from the skin of humans that they've killed. So, I mean, they're pretty much just living wild. He goes, well, if I run like that, then maybe they'll think that I'm one of them and I can blend in better and all that. So when that happens, like, and this is right at the very beginning of the book, you can see that this is going to be a descent into madness. And that's exactly what ends up kind of happening. So I guess, like, I'll just say spoiler warnings. I'm not going to do as completely spoilery as I was for the Cellar, but in order to properly review this book, like, you have to really get into what happens with Lander and his psyche. But, like, as he goes, like, he finds their camp, but on his way to the camp, he sees two female Krulls, and they're in this, like, pond or lake or stream, or I think it's a stream of some sort, whatever, but they're bathing, and so they're all naked and they're bathing, and they're, like, you know, rubbing each other down. It's like, you know, I'm waiting for the, you know, brown chicka brown brown. Like, I mean, it was very, like, 70s porn film-ish, the way he wrote the scene. It was kind of ridiculous. But I mean, and it's literally straight middle-aged dude, you know, being a voyeur while two lesbians, like, go at it in water. Like, come on. And that's pretty much what happens. Like, the girls start, like, going at it, and you're getting his internal monologue, and of course he's turned on by it, but in his head, like, he's like, I really want to rape that one. Like, I want to do to her what their people are probably doing to my wife and daughter right now. And then he goes, well, why would I want to do that? Like, his internal struggle, and it's like, something snaps in his brain, like, him being thrown into this really horrific, like, scary, like, it's fight or flight, like, we're gonna die if I don't fight back kind of situation. He kind of pretty much ends up being just what they are. Like, and his mind immediately descends, like, right down into the dark. So, you know, like, this guy had something dark in his head for a long time that he just never had access to, or never allowed himself to have access to. Because very quickly, he's right on to, like, doing exactly what these people are doing. So he has these thoughts about raping at least the one girl, killing the one and raping the other, and is very graphic in his head about what he thinks about doing. And then he's kind of like, well, wait, why would I think that? Why would I do that? I'm trying to find my wife and my daughter. What's wrong with me? But that's, like, the last time he says what's wrong with me. As the story progresses, you can see him just go, meow, like, and immorality and everything else, which was kind of fascinating. Like, I mean, granted, most people, if they were put in that situation, yeah, they would fight to the death, like, to survive, but they probably wouldn't join the group. You know, like, they probably wouldn't join in with their cannibalistic, rapey ways. But Lander kind of does, and watching his progression and his descent was really fascinating. It was actually written pretty well. I mean, to a degree. I mean, it's 1981, you know, horror fiction, but you can see the descent, and the way he wrote it, you could see, like, it was just hidden in the back of his head. Like, this was deep down for a long time, and it only took this one thing, and it was the straw that broke the camel's back, and we're in for a ride now. And Cordelia, his daughter, like, his wife dies. Spoiler alert. He comes onto the camp, and they've got her strung up by her ankles, and they've already bit into her a couple of times. She's still alive, but he tries to rescue her, and as they chase him down, they're, like, throwing machetes and arrows and all that stuff, and she ends up being dead, literal dead weight, so he dumps her. But it's almost like he doesn't really look for his daughter after that. It's kind of like she fends for herself, and her story was more like what a normal human would do. Like, she gets raped pretty brutally after she gets caught, and they pretty much tell her, either you join us, or we'll kill you, and, you know, rape the shit out of you some more, and then we'll kill you and eat you. So what are your options? Well, of course she's going to join them. Like, who would want to be raped multiple times and die? But I mean, at the end, she ends up like escaping them and stuff like that, and fights through it like how a normal human would if they were in that situation. A normal human would fight tooth and nail to try to figure out a way to get out without, you know, going full in. Lander never does. He goes full blown in. Like, he doesn't try to find a way. Like, he ends up loving it. And it was so weird to watch. It was way better written than The Cellar. Like, it was more fun because it was like reading a B horror movie, which to me is really fun because some of those are just so ridiculous. So it was really fun to watch. It wasn't good enough to give it more than 3.5 stars. I mean, it was way better than The Cellar. Way better than The Cellar. But this is where you can see where he's starting to find his footing, where there's an actual good story in with all the gore and sexual assault and all that, you know, he is, you know, really famous for doing. This actually has a really good core story to it. Obvious trigger warnings for sexual assault, rape, cannibalism, all kinds of violence with arrows, machetes, you know, any kind of violence under the sun. I don't know if I really should do spoiler warnings, or not spoiler warnings, but trigger warnings in the beginning of these, because you guys should all know, and I've said it multiple times, he is one of the, you know, 80s horror authors, like one of the big 80s horror authors, to where it is very gruesome, it is very gory. If you can't handle lots of gore and, you know, sexual assault in your horror, then don't even try picking up Laymon, because it's not even worth it. But this was a really fun read. I read way through it. It was not that long. I think it's only like 250 pages or 270 pages, somewhere around there. So it was a very quick read. I read through it in a couple of days. It's making me feel, this one I had not read previously, so this was a first read for me, not a reread. And it gives me more hope as I'm going on and reading some of the books that I did not read before from him, that it's only going to get better from here. And there's some of his books that are my absolute favorites, so I know it gets better. But this was really fun. If you love B horror movies and, you know, just where it's kind of cheesy but fun at the same time, I'd recommend giving this one a read. Hey guys, that's it. That's my review for The Woods Are Dark. I hope you enjoyed my review. I hope you guys are enjoying my little Richard Laymon read-along. This worked out way better than it did the first time, so I'm glad that we're on the upswing. But yeah, I will see you guys later. Bye.